welcome to another episode of The Adrienne Ross Show. Now, I am Adrienne, and I'm so glad that you have tuned in to catch this episode on the BMG Network. That is thebmgnetwork.com. Or perhaps you're listening on another major podcast platform. Wherever you're listening, I'm glad you are. And maybe you're also watching. This is the first time I'm doing the episode via video on YouTube, and we'll see how that goes. Maybe that's something that we'll want to continue, but I'm excited about doing this for the first time. And I will talk more about the BMG Network at the end of this episode, okay? But for now, I want to start the way I've been starting, and that is with a thank you, a huge thank you to those of you who have taken a moment to leave a review, wherever reviews may be left. And I'm going to read this week's highlight review from Apple Podcast. It's from MH1998, and MH1998 writes, "Amazing insight. I am an Orthodox Jew, and Adrienne is a very strong Christian. Anyone listening to her podcast will definitely be able to get great advice out of it. I know I'm definitely using her political talking points in conversations with friends. I think about her general life advice as a young single person fresh in my career. Whether it's navigating the dating world or looking for a unique perspective in politics, Adrienne has me covered. I look forward to tuning in to each new episode." MH, thank you so much for that wonderful review. I really appreciate it. And I also, again, ask others to do the same. If you would please leave a review wherever reviews may be left, I would so greatly appreciate it. I know some of you reach out and you tell me that you're enjoying it, and that's wonderful. I love those messages. But if you would leave a review, it would be so amazing. So I'm asking for that, and I'm thanking you for it in advance. All right. Okay. So let's dive into this week's episode. I have to say this is an area I didn't want to touch. I really did not. There is a conservative woman. She's a commentator. She's an author. She has podcasts. She has shows. She has the attention of many people. She happens to also be a Black woman. And if you follow politics at all, when I say her name, you'll probably know who she is, because she is an attention getter. Okay. She's an attention getter because she's extremely provocative. Okay. And purposely so, I feel. The name is Candace Owens. Again, she sort of took the conservative world by storm a while ago and really rose in ranks in terms of how people feel about her and the appreciation that some people have for her. And of course, she causes liberal heads to explode because she's going to say some things that they don't want to hear. And she really doesn't care if they don't want to hear it or not. Now, personally, I'm not a huge fan of Candace Owens, and some people might find that surprising. I've had people who know me mention my name in the same sentence as hers. And I usually say, no, I reject that because, again, I'm not a hater. I'm not a fan. And I have reasons for that, which I really don't want to get into today. I'm only talking about Candace Owens because of a particular issue that surfaced that was brought to my attention. And so I want to speak on it. I almost feel like I have to speak on it. Okay. So again, I'm no huge fan of hers. I have reasons for that. I'm not a hater. She does what she does. I have to do what I have to do. But I am going to speak on this particular issue because it needs to be spoken about. Okay. It's deep, and I just have to say something. Okay. A friend tagged me in a comment she made on a post that Candace put up on Instagram. Okay. My friend was, you might say, livid about what Candace posted. And then after I commented to my friend, which was, "Why are you letting this get you upset? This is what she does. She does it on purpose. She likes to provoke." Now, I don't know if Candace thought that she was going to provoke this kind of response from a conservative, but I began to look through the comments that other people left in addition to my friend. And she might have been surprised to know that there were a lot of people who really did not feel what she was saying. They were offended by it. and they had issues with it, and they pointed it out. So let me just read what she wrote, and then we can talk about it, because again, I wasn't really going to touch on Candace Owens in any way, shape, or form, purposely so, even though someone had asked me to. I purposely wasn't going to do that. But when this came up, I said, you know what? I got to say something. So let me read this post. She put on Instagram, "It's so important for women to start families. With very few exceptions, women that don't start families transform into angry, bitter, maladapted, shrieking sociopaths with their therapists on speed dial. Fighting biology never ends well. Women are meant to nurture." And then she went on to say, "We need to bring back feminine women as desperately as we need to bring back manly men. Society is regressing because we have abandoned our roles as providers and nurturers. And in the end, biology wins." Okay. Some of the comments are exactly what my friend was talking about, exactly what I feel, and I will expound on that. Some of those comments were, you know what, hold up, Candace. Let's talk about the fact that there are women who cannot have children. There are women who desire to be married, but they haven't found Mr. Right. And there are women who truly want the will of God for their lives, and for whatever reason, he has not given them a mate yet, and they just want to be in the will of God. Now, if you've never, and I've talked on this before, so if you've never seen my episode called "Why I Never Got Married," please go to my podcast episodes and listen to that. Okay. It's very, very important. And so I just want to talk about this post as well. Okay. I find it extremely insulting, extremely offensive that Candace Owens, and irresponsible, mind you, that Candace Owens would come out and say, with very few exceptions, I don't know where she gets her math from, but that's her numbers, I guess, with very few exceptions, women who don't start families they become bitter and angry and shriek, not just sociopaths, but shrieking sociopaths, maladapted, and they've got their therapists on speed dial. You know, what does this say to women who can't have children? What does it say to women who just haven't found Mr. Right, but they want to? What does it say to women who've chosen not to have children? And they're not these hardcore feminists who believe that it's a back in the daytime when you're supposed to raise a family, and these are women who respect marriage or whatever. They're not married. They made that choice, or they're married, they didn't have kids, or they can't, or they're waiting on what God has for them, or whatever. You know, who are you to come out and then to try to make them feel like there's some kind of horrible person who's just this feminist who is off your rocker, and you're not a nurturer? We're meant to nurture. I mean, really? I mean, that's just, and that was what some of the comments said. I've read comments where people said, you know what, I generally agree with you, but on this, I can't agree with you. And my friend who commented that, she said, look, I'm an accomplished woman. I work for a Christian radio station. I'm a college graduate. I lead a life group for my church. I love God. I don't desire to have any children. She's also single. And other people who said the same thing, Candace, this is over the top. Now, I agree with some of what you say, or I agree with a lot of what you say, but this is where I draw the line. There were comments about that. I read them. And as a person who, I spent, as I talk about in that episode, Why I Never Got Married, I spent a lot of time of my life being really upset that I was single. I wanted to be a mother. It wasn't like I was some, hardcore feminist who, just thought that it was wrong to get married or have kids or whatever. It's just that God has a plan, and I have to fulfill the plan that God has for me. And I did singles ministry for years. And I would hear women who wanted to have children, or who wanted to get married down the road or whatever. And they just, it just didn't happen for them. I got to say this, if you hear some noise, let's just be informal. If you hear that hissing in the background, my two cats are having it out. So I was going to ignore it, but I couldn't. So you got to forgive me. I'm just going to be informal. That's my cats hissing with each other there. Anyway, back to this. it just, maybe that's appropriate. Maybe the Candace thing is the hissing, the cattiness. I don't know. But I just know that having worked with, dealt with women, prayed for women, tried to encourage women to just walk in the purpose that God has for your life. And then to come and read something like this, where you're saying with very few exceptions, then you're just some kind of sociopath because you're not married or have children or whatever. And that's just jacked up and insensitive. It really is. And then when people it's like certain people who want to talk like that, it's like, okay, so you've been married for like a minute, and had a kid for like 30 seconds, but now you know all about who's nurturing, who's not, and the sociopaths and all this other stuff. It's just, it just needed to be spoken about. And that's where I come in, I guess, because this is a serious issue and this is really offensive, as the comments said. Now, it would be nice if she came back and said, you know what, I got to listen to what people have to say. And I apologize for that. I overstepped. You're right. I'm not talking about, I'm not even talking about most people. I can't judge, what reasons most people have. I can't say that they're sociopaths because they didn't get married. I don't know their story. I apologize. I'm not holding my breath for that. But that would be the right thing to do. And here's this thing. I agree with her that God has made us nurturers. We are by nature nurturers. When I say by nature, I mean because God has given a heart to a woman that is soft and usually and beautiful. And we do need that. So I agree with her there. But you don't have to necessarily have a child to be a nurturer. You're a nurturer because God created you to be a nurturer. I taught nearly 18 years. I nurtured many children. So there are people who are nurturing their students. There are people who are nurturing their nieces and their nephews, their aunties, and they're nurturing. They're teaching in Sunday school and they're nurturing, and they're not fighting that nurturing spirit that God has given us. Maybe they just don't have their own children, but that doesn't mean that they're some kind of freak of nature and that they're not nurturers. And again, for her to say that is absolutely jacked up and irresponsible. Again, I'm no fan, okay? I know that she likes to press buttons, and I know that she gets attention from it, okay? And here I am adding to that. But this is more for other people than it is about her, because people, even as I read the comments, there are people who are just like, what about, I just chose not to have children, or I chose not to get married, or I hope to get married, but I haven't, or, I can't have a baby, or whatever the case may be. It's more about them, because nobody should be made to feel less than because they don't fit what you think is supposed to have happened in their lives. You're not God. And as for me, my desire is to help people fulfill their purpose. In fact, I really believe that's part of my purpose. My purpose is to help other people fulfill their purpose and not to embrace something that's not for them or not for them in this season. And then I look at some of the people who are hitting like, and I'm like, what planet are you on? This is what we have to get away from, particularly politically. We've got this thing with politics where if I like the person, then I have to like what they say, and I got to be all up on them and all that. Listen, stop and think. Don't be anybody's puppet and just be agreeing to all kinds of stuff because this particular person, Candace Owens, and she's like, oh my, she just rose up in ranks and she's a black conservative and she's coming after, all the, Black Lives Matter and she's calling out the black community and, or she's an author and, or she's on this particular network. And, so Candace Owens, we've got great, you know what? When you can applaud somebody, applaud them. But when they step over the line, don't be afraid to call them out. Don't be a yes man or a yes woman, especially when it's something like that. How do you like a status that says that women that don't start families transform into angry, bitter, maladaptive, shrieking sociopaths with their therapists on speed dial? How do you even click that? No, Candace, hold that down. Yeah, there are people like that. But I like to think those are the exceptions, not the ones who are just living their lives and doing what they do. So we need to be more responsible when we speak. As I have said, I'm not a fan, But this required speaking on. Generally we ignore things and we don't want to go too deep with certain things, but I just felt like it had to be addressed. And I also want to encourage those of you who are women, who believe in femininity, who believe in marriage, who also have great respect for singleness. Maybe you are desiring to be married. Maybe you're not. I just want to encourage you to just do what God's called you to do. It's a beautiful thing. And don't allow anyone to steal that from you. All right. Okay. So that's it. That's all I have to say. And I want to thank you for tuning in to the Adrienne Ross Show. I said I would talk a little bit about the BMG Network. Listen, we have got great podcasts on the BMG Network. We have on Mondays, the Ken Burns Show podcast on the BMG Network. On Tuesdays, of course, Adrienne Ross, the Adrienne Ross Show comes out. On Wednesdays, we have the Pac-Man podcast. You got to excuse me. The Pac-Man podcast. And that is with Ted Flint. And then on Thursdays, we have Mic'd Up with Mike Hansen. And on Friday, we have Set Apart with KC. Also on Tuesday evenings on Facebook Live, we have the Ken and Mike Show. And you don't want to miss that. Okay. So, cool. Thank you for tuning in. And also, remember, you can contact me via email at adriennerosscom@gmail.com. And my website is adriennerosscom.com. I have an online school, adriennerossacademy.com. And I also have an online column. I did have a print column in the newspaper, but I decided to step away from that media filter. And we have adriennerosscolumn.com. So thank you for tuning in. Again, this is a new thing here. So this is the whole video thing. So you got to experience that and all my flubs and flaws and all that. And it's all good. We just want to be real. We just want to be real. All right. So thank you for tuning in. And make sure that you consider and then go ahead and leave a review. I would really appreciate it. And make sure that you tune into every episode because you don't want to miss a thing. You don't. God bless you abundantly. The Adrienne Ross Show was produced and edited in the BMG studio. The music was provided by Kevin MacLeod. Find more episodes of The Adrienne Ross Show at thebmgnetwork.com and major podcast platforms. Be sure to tune in regularly. You don't want to miss even one episode.